I have to be honest, it's a little bit upsetting. I don't want to say upsetting, but it is a little bit odd to me that Microsoft has a much more powerful console, and it just seems like it's being underutilized by a lot of developers. Certainly, maybe you can chalk it up to, it's still being early in the generation, but when it comes down to this kind of stuff, you just kind of scratch your head a little bit and go, well, why the heck isn't this something that, you know, that the Xbox Series X should be able to kind of brute force its way past, or something. There should be some kind of way that this thing is doing much better than it is currently with these comparisons to the PlayStation 5. Like, honestly, last generation, and I know that it's not as big a gap as like the Xbox One X versus the PS4 Pro, but it is still a little bit disheartening to see when this kind of stuff happens. And I just kind of wanted to talk about it, get it off my chest a little bit. And I know that it's probably a topic that a lot of you guys are talking about as well, because it just seems so strange to me that Microsoft as a whole, a lot of their games, they've come out with some decent games and they come out with good games, but for the most part they aren't like great looking games. I mean, you could argue Gears of War is a great looking game, and it is, right? But I mean, outside of that, you just have to kind of just wonder what's going on there, right? And Sony, on the other hand, look at the kind of resurgence that Gran Turismo 7 ended up having, right? It ends up looking just like absolutely phenomenal. Like, it looks like it got upgraded, which is something that hardly ever happens in this industry, in the business. So yeah, it's very much a weird situation, and just one that I just kind of go, wow, it just blows my mind. I do want to get into this though, because it's a very hot topic, and I'm sure a lot of people are wanting to talk about it. Hey everybody, I'm the Crap Gamer, and of course this is Crap Gamer Reviews, your home for gaming news, opinions, reviews, and much more. You'll probably notice a few changes around here, but hopefully that doesn't stop you from giving us a like, and possibly consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. Thank you so much for choosing to spend some of your free time with me today. It means the world. A simple like is all I ask. I know you guys are busy, family, friends, all that kind of good stuff, school, work, whatever, playing games yourselves, and I get that, but help a guy out, right? Simple like, that's really all I'm asking for. Now, again, when it comes down to kind of what's going on here, we see that Microsoft and Sony are two companies that are kind of going in their own directions. But one thing that Microsoft has really kind of prided themselves on is the fact that the Xbox Series X is definitely the most powerful platform, the most powerful console. And it had such an advantage over the PlayStation 5, at least from a perspective on paper, that you sort of just go, oh man, what's going on here? How is this like something that absolutely is kind of changing? It seems like every time we see something happen with the Xbox versus PlayStation now, it's like, oh, the Xbox should have this advantage, but it doesn't really. And the latest Digital Foundry stuff says, they're talking about Dying Light. And Digital Foundry says this: Dying Light 2 has a 16% advantage on paper from Xbox Series X when rendering pixels, but in terms of actual real-world results, it's barely noticeable. Across all three modes, there's pretty much parity, except PS5 has fully shaded trees, which is missing on Xbox Series consoles. So how is it that Xbox has, a 16% advantage on paper, and it's not something that's out there right now, kind of, doing what it's supposed to do, which is outperform the PlayStation? And it seems like maybe a bit of a weird situation to be in. So maybe we should listen to what they have to say about it.
And so the biggest advantage technically from hours of testing is that boost to 1944p on resolution mode. Let's put some stats behind that resolution difference. At 1944p, Series X has an edge over PS5's 1800p by rendering around 16.6% more pixels overall. That's the on-paper advantage anyway. In side-by-sides on the resolution mode though, I've got to say it's much harder to spot. Techland's TAA and motion blur methods filter the action effectively enough to reduce aliasing. Still, in scenarios with fine details, meshes, fences, Series X will reduce visual noise on a 4K display. Visually, there's little otherwise to split them. Across all three modes, there's parity, with one curious difference. In the non-ray tracing modes, performance and resolution, PS5 and Series X render shadows differently. Often trees on PS5 are fully shaded, while Series X and even Series S leave these trees lighter and with less shade.
So we sort of have an idea right there of what's going on with both of these consoles. So I noticed they keep on bringing up this 16% advantage, and everybody's going to be talking about this. And I totally understand the reasoning behind talking about these advantages and things like that, because it is supposedly supposed to be an advantage. But sometimes, and I'm not like trying to make an excuse here, but sometimes you do have a situation where developers don't fully take advantage of something, or it could be held back by previous gen versions and things like that. And I think that could be the case, but it doesn't make sense why you would have like extra shade on PlayStation or whatever. If the resolution's the thing, then give them both the same resolution and give them both the same amount of everything. But technically, the PlayStation and Xbox versions, I get why they're close, but I think the PlayStation beating it out in any type of way is a little bit silly, and it just you kind of question it and say, well, what's the deal here? How is this even possibly a thing when clearly both Microsoft and Sony kind of have gone into doing certain things differently for their consoles. But I hope to see just the Xbox to be fully taken care of. Now, this was a big issue back in the day with the Xbox One X, right? Like, developers would not take full advantage of what the Xbox One X could do, and it was a real shame because, I enjoy and I pay for these things to get taken advantage of, right? Like, I'm just being honest. We want these things to be fully taken advantage of, and the fact that they aren't is really kind of a bummer, and I hope that that's something that kind of gets rectified in the future. To be clear, I'm not saying gimp the PlayStation versions or anything like that. I'm simply stating, hey, you know what? I think it would be great if we had kind of a situation where we could just feel free to take full advantage of what the Xbox had to offer. Because believe it or not, tools or the jokes aside, the Xbox Series X should be able to kind of do more, and especially when it comes to stuff like shaders and handling stuff like that. I just feel like they could definitely do a better job at kind of getting those out there. I just feel like that's something that we're kind of missing right now, and I do hope that we get some updates, and I hope that we get some things going for Xbox to kind of prove that it is what it is, and the fact that it's not is almost like seems like a little hesitation on some of the developers' part. So yeah, I do get a little bit sick of that, especially since basically right now, for the most part, I've started to kind of get the multiplats on the Xbox side of things, and it realistically should be able to take full advantage of everything that's going on, and I hope that they get all that kind of stuff straightened out and kind of sorted out and things like that. That's the hope anyway. And I do hope that we see some differences in the future. That's what the ideal hope is, but it's kind of upsetting to see that it's not being taken full advantage of right now, but I do hope that it gets there someday. With that being said, I'm going to link this. You guys can check it out. Let me know what you think. Rack 'em up, fact 'em up, Crab Gamer 'em up. As always, Crab Gamer out.